Hi, I'm Steve Owens with School of Hollywood, and I'm excited because Jeff Valdez is in the house and he has a brand new HBO show called The Garcias, but it's not really new because it started like 15 years ago. How were you able to re-erect this into a current show?
The show ran from 2000 to 2004 on Nickelodeon. It was kind of unique because it was really a family show. And then in 2011, I started trying to get the rights back. I said, this is crazy. It's been 7 years since show's off the air. There's no good, wholesome family shows on television, live action that you can watch. And from 2011 through 2018, I lobbied and got close a couple of times, but never could get Nickelodeon to finally agree to it. And then in 2018, Bob Bakish took over as CEO of Viacom, and I knew Bob from back in the day. And I flew to New York and had a meeting with him and said, look, it's sitting on the shelf, collecting dust. We'll give you schmuck insurance, and in the event that it works, then you'll be just fine on it. So he gave us the rights back. We bought them back, and that's how we began. Then it took about 2 years to get it sold and set up, and then we spent a year writing it, shooting it, editing it.
As a showrunner, a lot of people don't know exactly what that title is because there's technically two different kinds of showrunners. One who's the creative writing, and then there's also one that's more of a technical. Can you explain a little bit more to people what your position actually entails?
Mine, I'm a very hands-on guy. I wrote the original Bible and the character arc, which was quite a challenge when you have 13 characters and it's serialized, because the original series, the Brothers Garcia, was not serialized. The new one is. So trying to figure out 13 character arcs, and I put 5 Easter eggs in the show. So I wrote literally spin-offs within the show because I was like, well, if Norman Lear can do that, there's no rule says I can't do it also. And so now we've got these amazing sizzle reels for our spin-off shows that are already shot. So that's helpful. But I was very involved in everything, in all the way down to the budgeting, in the setting up of the Bible, and I wrote two episodes, and then we had a very small writers' room. There was 4 and me, and Joey Gutierrez was the head writer in the writers' room, and it was an all Latino writers' room, with the exception of Nick Lopez. He's half Latino and half Korean. And I very quickly, when he came on board, I said, I want to make clear to you, because you're Korean, we're not bringing you in that you get to write for the Korean character in the show. You're writing for all the characters in the show. Because he had said, yeah, it's not uncommon to, you go into a thing, oh, we'll let you write for the Latino character in the show. It's like, no, you write for the funny characters in the show, and that's what you're going to do. And, and it all, it was just literally soup to nuts getting involved. I was involved in all the post-production, the color correction, in the pre-production of going down. It was the location that I chose, the budgeting, the even decisions on what kind of working with our DP. He had Sony Venice cameras that we shot it on, so we wanted only the best stuff. So I got involved in like literally every imaginable aspect of the show.
You had real tough conditions when you were shooting. 95
Yes.
degrees and 85% humidity, a couple tropical storms and a hurricane. The big
Mhm.
question is, how many of the studio execs braved it and came down there to be on the set and harass you?
We didn't have any studio execs involved in our show. You're going to love this one. We had complete 100% creative control over the show.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
HBO Max didn't even see it until it was fully finished. Let me say that again. Nobody saw it until they didn't know who wrote it, who was starring in it, who directed it. And quite frankly, I'm glad they didn't, because they would have gone crazy. Because at a certain point, I remember I told our casting director, I don't want to see any more. I told everybody, I don't want to see resumes. If you're a writer, I'll read you, but I don't want to see your resume. Because in the case of actors, I'd have these young actors come in and read for a role, and their resume would say, gang member number 1, gang member number 4, gang member number 17, because that's all they've ever had. And now suddenly, if I'm seeing that and I'm expecting them to do a comedy, slice of life comedy, I'm going to have a preconceived notion of what their skill set is. So I just let them come in and judge them based on their skills. It was very much a meritocracy.
Yeah, it's kind of like what's happened to actors over the years, that if they've done 6, 7, 8 dramas and no comedy, people automatically assume that they can't be funny.
Right.
And it's really, they just may not have had the opportunity to get in the room and actually
And,
close something on it.
yeah, and quite frankly, I've seen a lot of dramatic actors that can do comedy, and I've seen very few comedic actors that can do dramedy. My personal experience.
You also put on a comedy festival several years.
Mhm.
And how did you go about finding the actors or comedians, so to speak, for that particular
Well,
show?
we had talent bookers that did a lot of that. You know, I have to tell you that the point of the festival for our company's called New Cadence Productions. My partner's a guy named Sol Trujillo, who's not only my partner, he's really my mentor. Here's a guy that's run 3 global telcos, like multi-billion-dollar global telcos. And the guy doesn't have to work, but
Mm-hmm.
he is the hardest working guy I know. He's up, I think he sleeps like 4 hours a night. The guy's just, I mean, relentless. And he helped a lot on everything we're doing. And we started New Cadence, and the purpose of the Haw Festival was to create a farm team where we can get the talent from. And case in point, in the Garcias, there are 5 stand-up comics that made their acting debut in the Garcias.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, and including my favorite story. I was literally on the phone with him earlier today. My oldest son, his best friend growing up was a kid named Charlie Foster. And his little brother Kit was my youngest son's best friend since they were like 3 months old. And Charlie's mom is a very notable actress. The last name may sound familiar to you, who's won a couple Oscars. And he didn't want his mom to give him his first break. And I called him, I said, Charlie, I want to put you in the show. And by the way, his episode is one of the Easter eggs called a project we're doing called Surviving Paradise. And he was like, I'll audition. I'm like, Charlie, I've been seeing you act since you were 3 years old. I went to all of your high school plays. You were in 16 plays at Yale. I think you can handle this role. So everything was just really all about everybody just, you know, showing up with desire and hunger and passion and on the same mission. And, you know, and it worked.
That is fabulous. How many of the characters are actually kind of related to your own family members?
Most of them.
uh,
Well, in the original series, Carlos was named after my brother-in-law, Carlos. Lorena was named after my niece, Lorena. Larry was named after my brother, Larry. Ray was named after my brother, Ray, who actually add to I'll get back to the rest of the answer, but add to the complexity of the shoot. Both episodes, and I was directing, I had 2 brothers die on top of that, which was brutal because I couldn't leave to go to their funerals. And it was because the whole thing would have fallen apart. And my family said, you got to finish the show. Right. So, you know, that was not a fun time. So who else in the new show? Well, Yoon Jin is named after a family friend. Her name's Amanda Huh. And at first we named Yoon Jin Amanda. And then there were so many characters in the show with an A in their name. I said, we can't, people were getting confused reading the script. So we changed. I said, what's your real name in Korean? You should be proud of that. And so we changed her to Yoon Jin. Anna is named after my wife, Anna. Max is named after my son, Max. And, you know, he's a kid that loves to cook. My son woke up when he was 8 and said, I'm going to cook. And I said, okay, great, be a chef. And he's always loved to cook since then. Who else are the new characters? I'm trying to think. Alexa is and Andrea are named after my nieces who lived there in Puerto-Venturas, where we shot the show. So it's very, very close to me, all these characters.
And have they all said, we'd like residuals for our character?
No, they're just, thank God, otherwise we go broke. No, everybody just, you know, it's so exciting for them to see these characters on TV and say, oh, wow, that's me, that's named. We actually, when we had a dinner in Mexico, you know, the real Carlos, my real Carlos is there, the real Anna that was there, the real Andrea and Alexa were there. And I have photos of them with the real cast members. And, you know, Victoria was my kid's nanny, and I named the character Victoria after her. So, you know, I always like to pay homage to people that I love.
You have a scene in the trailer that's up from HBO Max, the Mexican popcorn. Was that really cockroaches or was it gummy bears?
No, they weren't cockroaches. They were grasshoppers. Thank you.
Oh, grasshoppers. Okay.
Grasshoppers. Yeah. I don't think they eat cockroaches. I don't think anybody eats cockroaches, not even cockroaches. They're like, yeah, this is disgusting. So no, grasshoppers. Yeah, those were real grasshoppers. They brought in. We had a whole bag, and we had a spit can for George after he do the take. But you know, you could. He was chewing. I directed that episode, so I made sure he ate as many of those as he could. But so he didn't feel alone. I ate a couple myself. They were spicy. They were, you know, really, they were crunchy. They actually were pretty tasty. It's just the mental part of getting over eating a grasshopper is kind of weird. And
Absolutely.
he was on a TV show recently, and they surprised him with a bowl full of chapulines, and they made they're called chapulín, and they made grasshopper tacos out of them, put some cheese, salsa, and tacos, and ate those on this show. I was like, so I think that's going to be kind of a running gag. Anytime somebody has George on their show, he's got to eat grasshoppers for them.
What's the best way for an actor to get onto a showrunner's radar?
Have a picture of him in a compromising position. I think that would be the easiest way. But if you don't have that, you know, that's a really good question because, you know, it's difficult because, you know, you have so many people come at you all the time, right? And you can't, you know, book everybody. And so it's really it's not so much getting to the showrunner, it's getting to a casting director that really likes you and believes in you, because the casting director is going to have the ear of the showrunner, you know, and they're going to go to them and say, man, you really need to see this. This happened several times when we were casting. And, you know, Blanca Valdez, who did a terrific job with our cast, you know, she come to me, hey, you really need to see this guy. He's really good. And I'm like, I hired her. I trust her. So I would go see somebody she liked.
Mhm.
So that's the best way is, you know, get in with the casting director. And then also, I literally had this chat last night when we had a watch party here at the house. And I told somebody, an actor that was here that was in the show. And I said, look, just because you didn't get that role, don't go, I mean, commit to what you're going to do when you go in there. It's too often like, oh, I'll change this, I'll change that. No, do what you really believe is the take on that. Because even if you don't get it, I can tell you several people that I didn't give work to on the show for this season. I have my list. I kept pictures of them, kept their names, because I'm like, yeah, they are great. They weren't right for that character, but they will be perfect for something down the road that I'm working on. So, I would say most showrunners kind of have an idea who's also they didn't use, and they'll use them down the road.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that we recently had Shane Johnson on, who's one of the stars of the 50 Cent TV series, and he was telling me that he actually had to go and test for 5 different characters before they cast him as a series regular as a lawyer, and then carried him on to a second show from it.
And literally, we had I don't remember which kid, but we had one kid read for a character, and we had him read for another character, and we cast him as the other character. So just to think that you could go in and do a read and think you crushed it, and you could, and still not get the part.
Mhm.
And you can go do the read and think you didn't do well, and you get the part because maybe you might look the part. Or my favorite story of that is when the original Brothers Garcia, Eva Longoria came in to read for it, for a role of a Mayan. There was a Mayan princess, and this princess that had come back she's the love interest of a Mayan warrior. And she came in and she was by far the best actress. Nobody knew who she was. And she read, and I told her I had to call her back. And I said, look, we're going to pass on you, but I have to tell you, you were the best actress. You just didn't look the part like that we're looking for. And I said, someday I hope you rub my nose in this. And jump to several years later, we were in DC at an event, and Al Gore was running for president, and he brings her up while we were sitting at a table together. And he says, I want to bring a special person to the audience. Got a new show coming out on ABC called Desperate Housewives. And she leans over and whispers in my ear, is now a good time to rub your nose in? And I'm like, it's a perfect time even.
Well, you have some amazing guest stars within it and in your show. You've got Maria Conchita Alonso, Paul Rodriguez, Carmen. Great actors coming in to do, basically a sitcom comedy. I'm excited to watch this series. It's just started on HBO Max. How many episodes are we going to get?
Well, we dropped 3 yesterday. We have 2 more on April 21 every Thursday. Then April 28th, there's 2 more. I'm sorry, 3 we dropped, and then 2 more on April 21, 2 more on April 28th. 2 more on May 5th and 1 on May 12th.
Fabulous. Anything else in the works for you that we can talk about?
I can't announce it, but I can tell you we just closed funding for a film we're doing. It's a historical film based on a court case that is really, really a powerful story. And you know, everybody that, including the people funding it, said this is an Oscar-worthy type of story. And you know, script's been written for, gosh, over a year now. But then we just got busy with the Garcias, and now we're coming out of it. That'll be our next project up. And then we're working with a guy named Steve Trevino, doing a show called I Speak Wife. And we're putting that together right now. And then we got to put the Ha Festival together again. So plenty to keep us out of trouble.
Absolutely. Are you on social media where people can follow you?
I am not. I am on the Garcias TV. And by the way, and also go to New Cadence Productions so you can see newcadenceproductions.com. Look at our sizzle reel. It really tells you what we're up to, you know, and I respond to stuff that goes on up there.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you being here today, and much success with the Garcias and future projects that you have.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the time.